I'd like to ask the first question. We have about 5 or 10 minutes here for some questions before opening it up to the floor. And one of the things that we talked about in this interview that I had with you was this issue of Chinese companies being misunderstood by the international oil companies, by the international oil industry. And I wanted to see if you could tell us a little bit what you think is the biggest misunderstanding about Sinopec and other Chinese companies.
First, I think that currently the Chinese companies and China image is not as good as we expected. And one of the reasons was because most of the Chinese companies that while they are investing overseas is not that transparent as we expected. That's not because they don't want to be transparent. That's because that's related with culture. You know, most of the Chinese people, they don't want to speak out. And when you ask, they may speak. Otherwise, they just thought you understood them, but actually was not. So transparency is very important, but the culture is really a barrier to most of the Chinese. This is something that we need to change ourselves because, you know, since China joined the WTO 10 years ago, and China trying to change themselves, including the culture part. And we are evolving, joining the international community. That means we need to change ourselves. We should not ask the world to change to meet our settings. So this is something that most of Chinese companies and especially the leaders need to understand and to change themselves. So there's one part that we did not do a good job by ourselves. And the meeting like this, I hope that more Chinese companies to come up, to show up and communicate freely with our international market friends.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, why don't we open up the questions to the floor? If you could identify yourself here, back here in the back. Go ahead. Yep.
Amir Paivar, BBC Persian Television. I will take that challenge, what Mr. Chengju said last, and I would like you to tell us very transparent and clear what you feel about Iran sanctions, and how has that affected the prospect of your investment on Iranian oil fields?
If I understand you correctly, that you are mentioning about the sanctions to the Chinese trade. I think there's, in today's economic environment, and it is natural that there will be more protectionism. And the people, the local people have more sensitive for the foreign investment. That is natural. But if you look for long run, the world need to work together. And the protectionism will not be helping to the economic recovery. And the countries that when they are in difficulty, they need to have confidence. And they need confidence on their own, confidence on the work together with others. So this, if you look into the next 20, 30 years. So major challenges facing all the world cannot be solved by any single country. We have to work together. This including the things related with our industry, energy securities, the global change, the climate change, environmental issues. So all those things that none of the countries or none of the companies can solve by themselves. We have to work together. So I believe this is temporary phenomena, only with the current state of the economic situation we are facing.
And this would apply, I think the questioner mentioned particularly Iran sanctions. You would take the same view of this with regard to the...
I think if the things related with Sinopec, we should be cautious to avoid this section. And in today's environment, wherever you want to invest, you must make sure what the people need, what the local government needs, or politician needs. Unless you meet their needs, you don't invest.
Another question? Sorry, 1 second.
Thank you.
Over
Vanya
here.
Fieldhouse, FTSE Global Markets. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned plans for clean coal production and carbon capture and storage. Could you tell us at present how much of the power production in China uses either of those two technologies?
Can I help him?
Yes, she's asking about clean coal technology and how much it's used in China right now.
In the past years, China has some of the pilot projects for the coal, we call coal-based clean energy, and which transforming from coal to clean either chemicals or the gas. So currently, there's a couple of projects being tried with more than expected results, and this have encouraged the companies and the government there that we will do more projects like those in China. So in terms of Sinopec, we are trying to change our feedstock for chemical from coal and gas, and by 30% in next 5 to 7 years. And this will reducing our independence on the oil import.
Is there another question here? Right here in the front? Sorry. Okay.
David Elms from Warwick Business School. You've painted a message of a company that, although it's in the oil and gas industry, is very intimately involved in the rest of the energy industry, in coal, in chemicals, in power. Is that a message that you would suggest to other companies in the oil and gas industry to take a broader view of the way that energy is being used today and invest in segments beyond just the oil and gas industry that they've traditionally focused on?
I think there's at the oil company, oil industry, we are facing the same challenges. One is how to provide more supply in the long run to the market. Second, the climate issues, environmental issues are the same challenge to us. But we have specific challenges back home in China. Because one, that we are in the process of industrialization with 1.3 billion population. And you know, the last round of industrialization involves only about 1.1, 1.2 billion populations. That's currently, which is the current OECD countries. So those 1.2 or 1.2 billion population consumes 60% of total energy around the world. If China doing the same, the whole world cannot support. And if there's the new round of industrialization, which involves 4 billion people doing the same, we have no way to keep the sustainable growth. So China decided have to go with so-called new industrialization pattern, which consumes less and generates more the economic value. So second, back in China, they have 70% of our primary fuels is coal. And this will not change in the next 10, 20 years. So how we can deal with our own industrialization and without too much impact to the world? Based on our calculation, if we don't change with the current growth for next, by the year 2020, China need to import 600 million tons of crude each year. Who can support? So we cannot support ourselves, world cannot support ourselves. So we have to decide that we will go a sustainable growth without negative impact to the global sustainable growth. So coal will be one of the selections. Second, as I mentioned, that we have great capacity to promote the efficiency of consumption. Our consumption intensity is very high, which means that we waste a lot of energy. We have to go this way. So if we achieve the UN level now, today, we can cut 2/3 of our consumption on energy, achieve the same economic value. So there's a great deal of potential that we can do better job by ourselves. So I'm not calling for all the industry to do the same, but because we are facing different challenges, that we have to go to this way.
Well, thank you very much. I know we have more questions, but I don't think we have time, right? One more question? Quick question.
Okay. Mr. Fu, a question to you, two questions. One, how do you characterize today energy security and how it's evolving from a Chinese perspective? I mean, how do you see, we've gone through a rapid period of change in terms of energy security and perceptions of it. How do you see it in the future? And second, what role do you think your company or Chinese industry is going to play in industry consolidation in the future, particularly internationally?
For the first one, I think the energy security is not most people thought in a traditional way. And the energy security that I interpreted it is related with the new round of industrialization. So there's factors we have to keep in mind. This round of industrialization involved 4 billion populations. Last round, just 1.1 somewhere. Second, the last round industrialization lasting for 200 years. But this round, I don't believe will that long, maybe 50, 70 years. So in a short period of time, you need tremendous energy supply. And that's, I'm not mean that in the future there's a lack of oil supply, but the growth rate of supply is a lot lower than the rate of growth rate of demand. So in this term, I believe there's security issues to the whole world. And second, about our company, I think this is for the future, the green energy sector is the goal. And from international investment that we see, because this industry is a global industry. So the green, low carbon, whatever you invest. And second, especially for the time being, acquisitions or what you call consolidations of the companies, I believe will be very, very slow processes in today's political environment. To us, we will go through partnership. We will keep minority shareholders. We do everything through our partners in different countries. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's all we have time for. If you could just join me in thanking Mr. Fu.